First of all, I like the respect that Conor Ben and Chris Eubank Jr. showed each other right after the fight. Whoever thought these two would hug and embrace? Eubank Jr., seemed like he just didn't want no parts of Conor Ben, because he called him a drug cheat. He said he respected him after the first fight, but never thought I'd see them hug and embrace. And I thought it was cool to see Conor Ben say, "Not too bad for two silver spoon kids," and everybody smiled. And Conor Ben's mom came in the ring and they hugged and everything. She said she was so proud of him. It was great to see that, man. I like the respect. If you guys haven't checked out the interview I did with Jim Lampley in Counterpunch Boxing News, Jim Lampley was saying that when fighters are in the ring, it's a love thing, They may dislike each other before the fight, during the fight, but afterwards it's a love thing. In fact, there was a point in the fight where a reporter asked Conor Ben after the fight, "What were you saying to Chris Eubank Jr.?" Because he was mouthing off to him in one of the rounds, and he said he was telling him, "That's all you got? This is easy work." And it looked easy. But I really want to talk about Chris Eubank gave a real awkward post-fight press conference. He wasn't really in the mood to talk, so shout out to him for even going to it. He's all man, 100%. And right when he came in, the reporters and everybody were clapping, and Chris Eubank said, "Why are you clapping? I didn't win." He said he knew after the first round that, it was pretty much a wrap. He knew he couldn't do nothing. He said he's been going through some things. He said he didn't want to get into it because it was Conor Ben's night. And it was awkward because even Radio Raheem asked a question, and Chris Eubank was pretty short with him. Someone else asked a question. He said, next question. He kept saying, it's his night, so you got to respect that, But it was awkward because you could tell he didn't want to answer no questions. And then Ben Shalom was once Chris Eubank Jr. left, Ben Shalom, his promoter, was taking over, and he said he was going to tell what Chris Eubank Jr. didn't want to say because he saw him in sparring, and he was saying for him to even get to the fight after what he witnessed, and you hear Chris Eubank Jr. in the background saying, "Ben, I don't talk about it. If I wanted to talk about it," I guess he's thinking to himself, if I wanted to talk about it or have them here, I would have said it when I was out there. So he didn't want Ben Shalom to go out there and say everything that he didn't want to say. So Chris Eubank Jr. doesn't seem to really care for a lot of promoters. So Ben Shalom better watch it or he'll be out with Eddie Hearn pretty soon. Because the promoter works for the fighter. It might not seem like it, but the promoters work for the fighter. So if the fighter don't want to talk about a certain issue or doesn't want to go public with it just yet, then the promoter has to respect that and not talk about something that Chris Eubank clearly didn't want to discuss. He was being professional. So he didn't want no excuses. He's the kind of guy, he's a hard man like he says. He doesn't want anybody to make an excuse for him. He doesn't make excuses. And you might say, well, he said he was going through some things, but he didn't touch on it, so, that's not an excuse. And Conor Ben was saying in the ring, the family feud stops tonight, so we'll see. Chris Eubank said once he goes to handle his business, that he was referring to, he'll see. But it was great to see that everything was squashed, and it was funny in the ring when Conor Ben said to his dad, "I got one up on you, Dad." And then his dad kind of took a shot at him. I noticed when he was talking at the end, he said, no more international or intercontinental belts. We got to go for the real belts. I was like, oh, don't take a shot at him, man. This is his night, They're real competitive. They're fighters at heart. So shout out to everybody that was involved. And that was a cool fight. Didn't live up to the first one, of course, but I didn't expect it to. Anyway, Cash App, $JRoos33, channel number 2 and WJ. the Instagram, the J. Roos Theory, LSR Forever, and be fearless. Yay.